Hey there guys, this is Robin Hood and Superman Guy back with another match from round 1 of my Napoleon Total War subscriber tournament here.
Hey guys, I don't know what you want from me.
Hey there guys, this is Robin Hood and Superman Guy here, bringing you another match from round 1 of my Napoleon Total War subscriber tournament. And Zuper, who's competing in this one?
What's up, guys? Who you can see now deploying is H. Sonbol as France, and in a second here you're going to see on the opposite side Mechanicpancake, great name by the way, as Russia.
Yeah, definitely a good name there. And while we're in the deployment phase, this battle is a little bit longer than the last one we showed you, but once again it is on the Syrian Ridge map, and the last battle started so quickly that I didn't really get to talk about this map. But I put this map in here because it's a little bit interesting. You've got this ridge in the middle. It's not a giant hill. It's not like some of the hills in other maps in this game. Prussian Hills, which actually is a map I allowed for the tournament, has a much larger hill in the center, but there's a lot of flat ground around it, and there are ways you can work around the hill in this map, so a little bit of interesting terrain, and it really can change how the game is played. The hill can, do away with ranged advantages if both players collide on top of it. But anyways, first off, I guess I will go ahead and start taking a look at H. Sonbol's French army. On his far left of his deployment, he's got 3 cavalry units, a cuirassier, a lancer unit, which just moved, and then a chasseurs et cheval. These are rifle cavalry, and in the rules, you are only allowed 2 mounted firing cavalry. So he has 1 of them there. Then in this little infantry block, he has 2 Voltigeurs, 2 Swiss Foot, an 18th Regiment of the Brave, and an Old Guard. He did bring an artillery unit, a 6-pounder horse artillery there, standard general staff, and then some more cavalry, another chasseurs et cheval, another cuirassier, 2 more Voltigeur units, and this flank is pretty much mirroring the other one, 2 Swiss Foot, but 2 Old Guard instead of an 18th Regiment of the Brave. And that pretty much covers his entire army. You can see his cavalry immediately rushing the hill here.
And across the field for Mechanicpancake's Russian army, very interestingly, you can also note that he also has a 6-pound Russian horse artillery, so we will probably see some artillery dueling here. Other than that, we've got 3 units of Russian Jaegers for skirmishing, 4 separate units of musketeers, as well as 2 more on the left flank. Leftern's not a word. And in between all the musketeers, we have more Moscow musketeers. Behind them, there are 3 units of Life Guard foot, and just behind the Life Guard is his standard general staff. And off on his far left, he also has some mounted rifles, but only a single unit of those.
Yep.
And on the very far right, he has another unit of mounted rifles and some Lifeguard Cossacks behind them. But they are really out there. Not sure what the objective is.
Those lifeguards look cool. I like that unit. That doesn't contribute to the battle at all, but they do look cool.
I don't know. I think style can intimidate.
Yeah. Anyways, immediately here, it is very clear that H. Sonbol has taken this hill. Russia and Mechanicpancake's army is still a ways off. He's got some distance to go at this point. If he wants to, get on this hill, he is going to have to fight his way up it. So that's going to be interesting because Russia, when I first saw this, I immediately noted, Russia, this is a pretty good army to fight on the hill. Russia does very well in melee, at least its musketeer units do. And if both armies collided on the hill, that would have been a good opportunity to make use of that trait for the Russians there. And he only does have 3 Russian Jaegers. So H. Sonbol here brought 4 Voltigeur units. So now that he has the hill, range is going to play a factor in this battle, and it'll be interesting to see how the skirmishing is going to play out.
So Robin Hood, at this point, seeing as how H. Sunbull has so clearly taken the hill and is setting up there very strong, what would you recommend Mechanicpancake even do?
Uh, See, if I were playing this, I always play this map interestingly. I would probably, at this point, I'd note that he has more skirmishers up on the hill. So
Right.
you're going to be taking a lot of fire, and you're not going to win the skirmish pushing up. Plus, he has the high ground. This map doesn't really matter skirmish-wise if both armies go to the hill. If one army decides to sit in its deployment or whatever, then, you know, range is going to play a factor. If you're pushing the hill and both armies collide right here, neither of them can shoot at each other till they're on top, and then at that point, they're pretty much point-blank range. So generally how I would do it at this point, I would pull back and move to one flank. It would make, you know, him shift his entire army, and of course you're shifting yours as well. But then if you guys look at, you can see my point of view. If you're attacking from this direction, instead of having this giant front of a hill in front of you, you only have that one little bit and several bits of trees to move through that are a little bit less open.
So if you were to attack a flank, I'm looking at the situation here. Despite H. Sunbull's cavalry being on his right flank, it does seem the weaker of the two.
Yeah, I'd have to look at the other flank here. Especially with how Russia is set up, yes. There's some old guard moving to reinforce his left flank, so...
That said, all of the French old guard is on the far right flank.
Yeah. Anyways, though, look at that. Very nice artillery shot from the Russian horse artillery, taking out a lot of those cuirassiers there. These solid shot artillery are very good against buildings, and they will wreck cavalry, but really they're going to play a morale advantage. The way I like to use these is get them in close and use canister, but I did not allow howitzers in this tournament because I figured these types of artillery would result in a little bit less of a artillery battle or camping, you know, kind of deal, because the solid shot does not do quite as much.
Oh, and you can actually see H. Sunbull's French artillery getting beautiful shots right down the mounted rifles for Russia.
Yeah, I got that there. Anyways, another thing to notice, like I was saying, the skirmishing advantage helping H. Sunbull here. Russia moved up these musketeers, and you can see these bodies here. They were drastically outranged by these voltigeurs, and they took a lot of losses without being able to return fire. So he was forced to pull back a little bit there, and that definitely did not help him. He lost a lot of men, over 40 men, that one unit.
That's pretty hefty.
Yeah, and H. Sunbull's now moved his cavalry behind the hill to where they can't be hit by the straight artillery fire, and those mounted rifles are kind of running about trying to dodge it. There they go, coming through the screen now. Are we having an artillery duel yet?
It seems we are, although I'm going to give advantage to H. Sunbull's artillery on the hill simply because of the hill.
Yeah, see these Russian cannons firing, and yeah, you can see here a lot of these shots are going to bury themselves right in the hill, so definitely an advantage there. It looks like H. Sunbull's pushed up his voltigeurs again, and now they are taking some return fire from these Moscow musketeers, and a second line of fire too.
At this point, what would you recommend Mechanicpancake even do? Because it seems once again they're simply being outranged.
Yeah, he did move over his one Russian Jaeger. That artillery has a good position, but of course his artillery is still strong as well. Although I really would not be attacking these voltigeurs in the woods, or at least I wouldn't be pushing with just my musketeers. You can see here they are now once again outranged. All he had to do was pull back his voltigeurs, and they are firing and getting good kills on these musketeer units. Yeah, look at these men dropping down here. So I mean, say he did want to go for the frontal attack, he's got to get some more skirmishers over there, and
Right.
he may realize that here soon. If not that, he's going to have to pull back and rethink his approach here.
Oh, breaking news. Seems we have a French cavalry charge from the Chasseurs au Cheval into Russia's mounted rifles.
And the mounted rifle is going to get a volley there. The Chasseurs au Cheval did not actually fire as they charged in.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah, very, very random. I always have trouble pronouncing the units in these games. I kind of just gave up, but this flank is definitely having all the action. If we go look at the other side, nothing is moving. Both players are very clearly focused over here. It looks like the Russian Jaegers may have moved up a bit, but look at that. Old Guard now opening up, and this Musketeer unit is just melting away on the flank. 2 Old Guard on your flank. That is not going to be good for any unit.
Certainly not. That old guard is truly a force to be reckoned with, and they're square on the Russian flank, and there's not a whole lot they can even do to stop that.
Yeah, and the fear effect of that old guard definitely kicking in. You can see the Moscow Musketeers and the other Musketeer unit definitely were beat up, but that back unit of Musketeers that is now routing still had 106 men in it. So
Yeah, they truly didn't lose that many.
no. And at this point, you can see a Lifeguard foot coming to plug the gap on that side, and I see a cavalry fight on the far right of Russia's lines.
There's a cavalry fight on both flanks, actually.
Is there? Oh, that one's still going on, isn't it?
Yeah, the Russian mounted rifles took out the Chasseurs Cheval,
But
but
now a
more
cuirassier.
cuirassiers have moved in.
Yeah, that's interesting. And over here, it looks like the Lancers are going to beat the mounted rifles, but those Lifeguard Cossacks are still alive. And it looks like are the Lancers going to get the charge here? The Cossacks are facing the wrong way.
Well, that's just foolish.
Let's see. Yeah, a little microlapse there. Now they're engaged. They've got the attack order, and just being a better unit, they'll actually probably tank that one out. Yeah, they have 40 men to the 21 now. Now that the charge is over, they will definitely pull that one through.
And if you take a look at the mini-map, you can see France is starting to wrap their flanks. Things are not looking good for Mechanicpancake and the Russian army.
And we've got those cuirassiers now charging into the Russian horse artillery there. And it looks like they're going to get there. That is going to be the end of that artillery. So now France has a good position up here and the artillery advantage for sure. Those artillery are in definitely a good position and playing a good morale effect on the Russian army. Yeah, those
And
horse
it
artillery
seems
are gone.
the Russian musketeers are trying to do something about these cuirassiers that have charged straight into the artillery.
Yeah, one unit is moving in melee, the other unit is in square, but those cuirassiers are actually going to break through those musketeers, and that's because these guys have routed once before. Their morale is not that great. The other musketeer unit is still shooting down some of those French cuirassiers there.
Interesting to note, at this point, basically everything of H. Sumbol's French army has moved off of the hill and is approaching the Russian army, except for the artillery.
Yep, and these cuirassiers continuing their charge. At this point, it would be costly for them to pull back, but it looks like they're finally going to get stopped by a Russian square, doing a little bit more damage. There they go. Russia has pulled back completely here. It looks like he's adopting 2 lines at the moment. His one musketeer unit still kind of isolated far out on his left, and you can see the encircling French army. Looks like on the right of Russia we've got an old guard and a Swiss foot moving around the lake to come in on the flank.
And Robin Hood, at this point, I can't help but think that having this much reserve is not a great plan. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I might keep one lifeguard afoot in the back. I would definitely start putting the other 2 to the flanks, though, because you've got 2 old guard on your left, clearly overlapping your flank. You've got troops moving around to the right. At this point, you've lost enough units that you are outnumbered. You got to start spreading out and trying to make do with what you can. He still has a chance. The one thing that is going for him is France is very spread out. If I was the French army, I mean, right now, you know, overall he's in a pretty good position. Maybe just tightening up the lines a little bit. He doesn't really need to keep a reserve at this point.
Right.
You can see the skirmishing opening up, but I don't know. If I was Russia, I would probably make an attack at one point in the line, because right now you're just being kind of boxed in, so you'd have to break out of that somewhere and start getting some flanking in return rather than being surrounded.
Where did you think that the best place to attack would be? I would stay away from the French right, because there are two almost full units of Old Guard slowly approaching. Yeah,
and as you can see, they are shredding through those musketeers there. I don't know. I mean, you know, you'd have to pick somewhere. At this point, he's kind of in a bad position. I'd maybe go after those 2 units moving around the lake on the right and then try to move back around that lake. It just depends on, can you actually hold off the French units behind you while you kill those 2 units. And, you know, at anything at this point is going to be a risk, but he's in a pretty bad spot being surrounded right now, especially with those Old Guard right on his flank.
And as you noted, those 2 units moving around the lake, one of those is another unit of Old Guard. So now he has Old Guard on both his flanks.
Yep. So maybe, you know, with knowing that, a good push in the center, maybe get into some melee. At this point, he's got to do something, though. You can see he is routing some French troops in the center, and they are spread very thin. He's definitely getting a lot more fire going into the center than France is able to return, but it looks like his flanks are under a lot of trouble.
Certainly seems that way.
And of course, France does have one more Swiss foot unit in reserve, so they could plug a gap. Yeah, at this point, Russia's in a pretty bad place. I'm just getting overheads of this firefight. The artillery rounds coming in once again. Those Old Guard continuing to pour fire into these Life Guards who are trying to line up and fight back. There they go, getting a return volley.
And I'm intimidated by those Old Guard. They are stone-faced killers, each and every one of them.
Yep. Yeah, definitely a tough unit. The Life Guards are definitely a good unit to put against them, but the Old Guard getting the old shot, or the first shot there, and those Life Guard are already depleted. I mean, it's just hard. Pretty much no unit in this game, maybe some British Guards, are going to win outright straight up against an Old Guard.
Right.
You could have a few units, like possibly the Life Guard even, head-to-head, under the right circumstances, both units would kill each other off, but never are you really just going to plow through a unit like that.
Right.
Actually, some of the best things for that might actually be like an Ottoman Rush build, but at this point, the entire Russian army is starting to rout, and those musketeers going in for one last brave charge, which they are actually going to pull off.
Good on them for it.
Look at
You
that.
actually mentioned to me earlier the Ottoman Rush build. I'm really hoping we see one of those at some point in this tournament.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Those kind of builds are risky in that if your opponent plays it right, you know, you brought a ton of melee units. If they don't let you use those melee units, then, well, you're kind of in trouble. But if you do manage to get those melee units engaged correctly, it can be a pretty big deal.
Of course.
Anyways, that's going to be a victory for H. Sonbul there. You can see he deployed 1,888 men, and the Russian army was definitely larger, but really what that came down to was positioning at the beginning. I think Russia would have stood a much better chance of winning had they pushed faster and fought on the hill. At that point, H. Sonbul might have fallen back and still tried to use a skirmishing advantage, but those Voltigeurs tore up an entire flank of his army, killed 3 units without really taking any return fire. That just was a game of range there.
It did certainly seem that simply ceding the hill at the very beginning was a dangerous move.
Yeah, you can see the top three performers in the French army were the Old Guard and two of the Voltigeur units, both with 161 kills, which I would assume are those two Voltigeurs that took out all those units on the right flank of the French army. But anyways, very good game to both opponents. Mechanicpancake did bring an interesting army as well as an interesting name.
Great name.
Yeah, definitely a good name. He just got outpositioned there. His army did not have a good situation once France got that hill. But yeah, good game to both opponents. And Ensemble, we will see you in the next round.
Looking forward to it.
Maybe bringing an Ottoman Rush build.
I can only hope.
I have no idea what he's gonna bring. But yeah, guys, that was that, and I hope you guys enjoyed that. Stay tuned for more. There are definitely, that's 2 of the matches down, so 6 more matches here in the first round of this tournament to come.
I'm excited about it.
Then you might get to see Ensemble again in round 2. So one more time, good game to Mechanicpancake and Ensemble. Ensemble, we will see you in the next round, and this is going to be Robin Hood and Superman Guy signing off for now.
Have a good one.